Hello everybody, thank you for joining. Um, this is the second in our webinar series. Hopefully, I know a couple of people are saying they couldn't hear me. Hopefully we've sorted that now. If there is any problems, you can click on the raise hand button, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a minute, or ask a question through the question interface, which should be in a panel on your right hand side. So, as I mentioned, this is part of the series. So a couple of weeks ago we ran a session that talked about 5 things you should know about cloud, which has been recorded. So if you're interested in seeing that or watching that, have a look on our website or drop me a note and I'll send you the link to it. It was recorded. Today we're going to talk about what companies are doing. We've obviously seen a number of people look at how to get to cloud and if they're ready for cloud, and as with all these sessions, that they're really meant to be snippets and information provision around what other people are doing to help you formulate ideas and share ideas. The next session in a few weeks' time is going to be about reporting. Obviously, one of the main reasons you influence some of this stuff is to provide more relevant and dynamic information to your end user base in order for you to make better decisions. And then in January we're going to talk about integration in cloud. Obviously that's been an evolving area, lots of development over the last 12 months, and again that will update you in terms of what the latest status is, what the products are out there, what the pros and cons are, etc. And then the final one in this series is going to be one that talks about what does it mean, what is business as usual state in cloud. It's fundamentally different in terms of in comparison to an typical ERP or HCM or on-premise, any on-premise application, because you haven't got the hardware, the infrastructure to look after. That's someone else's responsibility for the main application. So that's quite an interesting session that hopefully you'll all join us for. Bit of background, me, Phil Wilson, been implementing ERP and HCM solutions for 20 plus years. Obviously been working at Inoapps for the last 10 years, and we were one of the first people to take the dive into cloud 4 or 5 years ago. And a lot of what I do today is talk about what we see in the market and our experiences to share, and so people can use that information. So in terms of logistics, depending on whether you're using a laptop or whether you're using a mobile device, you'll have a interaction panel either on the top button or on the right hand side of your screen. Through here you can raise your hand if you've got a question, or alternatively you can also physically type a question into there, and myself and some of my colleagues will be able to answer those questions. These sessions are recorded, and therefore if people miss them or they want to see them again, or they want to share it with their colleagues, then absolutely part of the follow-up will be not only the questions and the answers, but also a link to the recorded webinar. Okay, it should take about 20-25 minutes today. Let's just go back. I wanted to talk about what we're seeing in the marketplace. So what we're seeing in the marketplace is cloud enabling us to look at things like reducing complexity in our IT solutions. It's looking at delivering end user reporting capabilities much deeper than they used to. We're seeing much more rapid implementations, even multi-pillar ERP, HCM, Hyperion. We're seeing those be a lot faster than what they used to be. But also it's the opportunity for people to take the time and forecast back onto possibly standardizing processes. So I'll talk about this a bit more, but a lot of people built complexity into their business processes because they could on-premise. Obviously one of the benefits of cloud is it gives you a more standardized platform that gives you the chance to look at your processes and actually take them back to standard in a lot of cases. Because the complexity was built in, because you could do some of the things you used to be able to do with on-premise solutions around customizations. Why are people doing it? And this is just to build the background to the market and what we're seeing. in, so people are bringing it to bring agility and efficiency and look at how you can support your company through growth. You know, it is the next generation of work tools, you know, so attracting people into your organisation. If you've got state-of-the-art systems, actually is a key point we're finding a lot of customers nowadays, not so much in other industries, obviously. Latest generation of ERP or HCM with minimal change effort. So cloud is designed that you take the standard application, you can't change the core like you used to, but you can still do extensions. But what that means is you can consume upgrades or updates in terms of functionality on a more regular basis, which was a big problem with on-premise, because a lot of people tended to find that they'd built something that then made it very inhibitive to go through an upgrade process. So this is a way of getting out of that trap. Total cost of ownership, there's various studies out there through recognised industry analytics that quite clearly suggests that moving to a cloud platform reduces your total cost of ownership significantly. And also, one of the things you can do here is look at using OPEX rather than CAPEX. And again, different companies have a different view on this as to whether it's better to do CAPEX or OPEX type expenditures. But with cloud, it is a service, it's a subscription service. So you know, people are taking the opportunity not to have to think about doing CAPEX investment around things like hardware on a regular basis. They're now looking at how they can actually convert that into an OPEX model. Some of the benefits, as you can imagine, get up and running quickly, consistent processes. If you've got the chance to go back to standard, then take that chance. Eliminate the need for expensive customizations. That customization may have been built when the business was a, you know, 4 or 5 years ago was completely a different business, and now they understand the applications and the solutions and what we can do. It might be the opportunity to remove some of those customizations. Automatic upgrades, as I mentioned earlier, you are always going to be the latest version. That's the whole concept around cloud. There are regular two a year upgrades that you obviously through a controlled process have to take, and there's been many companies now that have been through many of these upgrade cycles. But it means you're kept on the latest release, so you're always seeing new functionality that you can review and decide whether or not it fits your business. But the fact is, you're at that state where you can consume that, whereas with some of the on-premise type of customers we're seeing that they couldn't consume that because the cost to get to that level was inhibited. So two things today. Talk quickly about, is your organisation ready to make the journey to cloud? Generically in terms of cloud full stop, and also specifically around applications, so ERP or HCM. And then secondly, I want to talk about some tips and tricks for successful migration. You know, there's a lot of people that spent a lot of money on what they've got implemented already. It may not be perfect, but you shouldn't throw that all away. There's a lot of knowledge being built into that. This is the opportunity to review that and possibly take some benefit from that investment forward into your future state. So, for those of you that were with us last time when I spoke about this, obviously there's a lot of companies doing, you know, where am I on that in terms of cloud? Am I ready? Is my business ready? Is it right for me? What's the return? And I guess I just want to touch on some of the sort of key drivers we're seeing. So some drivers in the business is, you know, have you got hardware that's coming towards the end of your life, end of its life? So you're looking at some sort of capex investment over the near future. If you are you constrained in terms of that capital expenditure? So budget's quite tight. Spending a significant chunk of money on hardware, is that a priority for your business at this time when margins are being squeezed? I think also obviously moving from a capex sort of investment to how would you like to pay for this stuff on a subscription type basis? How do you like to consume it in monthly bites rather than a capex type project? I think also you know, 24/7 support. Oracle's a global company. They've got a support service that runs 24/7. So this could be the opportunity where you pass off the responsibility for making sure you are guarded against uptime, against backups, against DR, etc. by passing that responsibility back onto Oracle and out of your key areas. Other examples, security. Obviously, again, you are buying into Oracle's infrastructure and Oracle's cloud services, so security becomes their issue, and actually they're one of the biggest IT companies in the world, so you know they apply good practices to that security element. Downtime, do you have concerns about any downtime, not being able to access your data? Again, you're passing that responsibility via a service level agreement back to Oracle. Would you prefer to pay for this as a pay-as-you-go model instead of concern yourself with the frustration of investing in an IT environment that might be under or overutilized? So you know, lots of reasons, and more generically, obviously, if you need to scale up or down, cloud gives you that ability more than what you used to have potentially with an on-premise type facility. So lots of reasons why you might be looking at cloud as an option. There is again, lots of research out there in the market. There's a more general adoption and acceptance of cloud as the future, and people are looking at it, even if they're probably 4 or 5 years away still, they're looking at it and thinking about what do we do here, and in some cases they might be looking at doing proof of concepts, might look at doing pilots, they might be looking at new acquisitions and saying actually we'll deploy cloud in that new acquisition rather than the on-premise solution that we have, just as a proof point on that journey. So one of the things we obviously have done for a number of people is start to look at how we build a assessment of where people are on that cloud journey. So look at things like their solution, look at the customizations they've got, look at their acceptance of cloud and their ability to take it on board. There are some things you need to look at from your own organization in terms of how you control and manage things like change, how you take the opportunity to move back to standard processes. So one of the things we're seeing is a lot of companies start to do this cloud readiness type assessment, and we've done it now for a number of customers, both at a light level where it's just a quick informal review through to some quite detailed analysis that we've done for customers. Obviously one of the things we come back and do is share with people what we found, where we think there's a solution gap, where we think there's a very mature product offering, look at what you've got today in terms of configuration and talk about what we can do with that configuration, but also look at what you've done around integrations and any customizations and say actually we can actually reuse some of the logic behind those, because even though the platform's changed, the logic might still be usable elsewhere. One of the outputs from this sort of analysis is the return on investment analysis and looking at the benefits. So you've identified that you want to look at moving to cloud. You've then done some sort of assessment to understand how it fits in your organisation and the benefits of it and the return on investment, because obviously there's a cost driver for it. One of the things then, assuming you start that journey, we've found is that we found a lot of companies that throw away everything they've done in the past and start and look and treat it like a re-implementation. Our view is that may well be the right thing if it's perceived that it's the wrong solution for your business or the configuration's wrong. But in a lot of cases, and you know, more often than not, if you've implemented an on-premise solution, you've gone through various decision processes to understand how any solution at a core level in terms of the enterprise decisions should be configured and the data that should be captured to suit your company. So our view is actually, why don't we look at reusing some of that information, some of that configuration. Obviously we work with a lot of on-premise e-biz customers, and obviously we've built some tools and technology to automate that in terms of extracting config, extracting information about the customizations, looking at the data and analysing the data. But actually it applies to any application. And the process we go through is to look at the current application, look at how it was configured, look at why it was configured in that way, map that back against where the customer is today, and then start to use that potentially to speed up the initial process, speed up the config of your new cloud environment. What this means is actually we can get away and quickly go through that process, which typically in an old large on-premise solution could take a few months, and get to a point where we can start to deliver the application, your solution, the way it looks and feels for your company in cloud very quickly. I think also during that process, you also should be encouraged to look at that config and understand whether it's still valid for your business. A number of organisations that we've seen have gone through acquisitions or disposals, and you'll have created some data that maybe isn't relevant anymore, and you couldn't get rid of it in the old days. So it's there on your database, and this is a perfect opportunity to try and cleanse that data by removing anything that's obsolete. And again, also, you might have made a decision back when you did the initial implementation that's just not valid for your business anymore. And again, this is a perfect opportunity whilst you're looking at your current application and looking at your current config to say, actually, we're now going to change this because we've got the ability to. So we see people taking advantage of reusing the configuration, but doing some transformation on it on the way through to make it more relevant to them. Then we use that to do the baseline configuration, which means that very quickly in an implementation cycle of this type, you're actually looking at your system with your data, with your configuration very, very quickly. And obviously then once you've actually got that initial cut, so maybe you term that as conference room pilot 1 or slightly before that, you're back into standard implementation, but the implementations in cloud are more rapid. So as I mentioned earlier, we're seeing multi-pillar deployments a lot quicker than they used to be in cloud than they were on premise. So a lot of time, a lot of money spent on config. Our view is some companies will decide to throw it away. My view and our view is actually take the opportunity to understand if there's some real value in that config, which can be reused, save yourselves a bit of time, save yourselves money, and also don't go back reinventing the loop, reinventing what you've done and spent time on before to do it. So we built, obviously from Inoapps' perspective, we've built our own Intercloud methodology, which is all about minimising things like project risk. So let's take what we've got because we know it works, we know it fits in your environment. It just may need some tweaking to get it right. So it minimises the risk. It minimises business impact because actually a lot of your users will be used to the chart of account structure if you're happy with the chart of account structure, for example. We tend not to encourage people to do a lot of re-engineering and reinvention. This is cloud. It's meant to be consumed as a service. You should look at trying to get back to some standard business process flows, but you can extend where you need to if there's a functional gap. Leverage some of the things like business processes. I'll walk you through an example of a typical sort of standard business process in a minute. Leverage some of the industry-leading tools. So again, obviously we've built some collateral to automate this process from EBS, but actually this doesn't stop you from doing this with any application. It's just the extraction of current config might be a manual process rather than an automated process. This is all about configuration. This is not about customization. So within the cloud application suite, you still have lots of flexibility around doing configuration. What you don't have is the ability to do the intense customizations that customers used to be able to do. You can still do some of that stuff, but in platform as a service, which is outside the core code. So what this gives us is the ability to focus on where people are today, look at how they get to cloud, justify why they get to cloud, and obviously that's built upon where they are today, business reasons why they need to do this, justification, cost benefit, and it means that we tend to be moving people from an on-prem to the cloud solution in a fairly rapid timescale. So current configuration, validate it, extract it, whether you do it automated or manual, reuse the structures, reuse the reports and data outputs and the business logic for interfaces. So just because you've got an interface between you and your bank on on-premise, the logic behind that interface does not change. It's just the technology. So again, don't throw it all away and start again unless it needs to be redone. Actually look at what was developed and understand how you can redevelop that in cloud using the same logic for the interfaces, and again that saves time, saves cost. Same for reports. There's a really powerful set of reporting tools embedded in the application. You will know which your key reports are, and we do some analysis on data use, on object usage, so we actually can tell you which ones are most commonly run. Look at those reports, look at how you're going to develop them in cloud, reuse the logic that's there. If you're coming from EBS, a lot of the core tables at the lowest level are of a similar structure, so there's a lot of correlation between cloud and EBS on-prem. Standardize, look at gap analysis, but try and move people back to standard. If you have to customize, then there is a platform as a service. The platform as a service do some extensions. Migrate some of your data. So we've obviously built a number of data migration assets which allow us to take data from EBS and get it into cloud very quickly, with some cleansing and control, obviously. But what that means is quite typically we're actually showing, as I mentioned, your configuration with your data in the early stages in CRP1. So just going back over the point again around reuse what you have in terms of current reports, look at ones that are most business critical. You can do that based upon management reporting or by object utilization, and the business logic can be reused as well. Where you can, look at the process that you've got in certain areas and take a challenge and take a thought that is actually Oracle's building this stuff to be developed and grown on a regular basis. Therefore, there's a standard process which will actually be the same in any other business for how you go from a starting point to an end point. So in this case, a journal. People will do different things at different points and capture different information at different points, but that can all be handled through configuration. So what we suggest and what we tend to do is come to you with a set of flows that cover the whole system and say, this is going to be your flow. This is what the flow that fits the software. This is the flow that when Oracle release a 6-monthly update, you should be using to look at how you retest that as part of your business as usual state. If you can move people back to these standard flows, if they've moved out of the standard flows, then absolutely you're in a better situation to take on board these upgrades. And actually a lot of what you want to do in some of the customized flows that we've seen is actually either standard configuration that can be made within the system, or it's just data that you need to capture. And there's a whole series of these flows, level 1, level 2, level 3, that we use as part of our implementation tool assets. So hopefully I've given you some background in terms of cloud, what's the market landscape, then how do you look and see what's available in cloud, and I've spoken briefly about readiness assessments, and then I've spoken a bit about how you can look at reusing some of the investment you made around configuration. Obviously, more than happy to take questions at any point. You'll be able to get hold of me at phil.wilson@inoapps.com. You feel free to email us at info@inoapps.com. We will be contacting you all afterwards just to share the link and share the questions that come through. The video also, and link to the video, will be on the website within the next couple of days. Coming up in a couple of weeks' time, we'll be running a session, a live demo of reporting in cloud, so to talk about some of the options and then show you some of the options. And then in January, integrations, cloud ERP, talk about considerations and planning for your cloud ERP integration strategy. Again, a very key area. Everybody wants to know. You're going to need integration. Yeah, you're going to have some third-party systems to talk to. So that's quite a hot topic that we want to share with you what's out there, and the pros and cons of all those options. And then finally, we're going to close the series off with business as usual state. It does change a company, your focus doesn't necessarily then have to be on maintaining infrastructure and hardware. Your focus needs to be maybe on delivering functional support more than anything else. Well, I hope that's been useful. If you do have any questions, please feel free to email me, give me a post on Twitter, anything. And I hope you all have a good day, and thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.